sunny day that is hopefully portending spring soon. We are very happy to have Suzanne Balet Haight of Balet Flowers and Design back in person again and online. Hello. She's going to talk about some fresh new spring things for you today. So thank you so much. I will let her take over.
Great. Thank you, Caitlin. So thank you for coming to the in-person and Zoom meeting. It's really exciting to be here. I haven't been here in a couple of years. So my name is Suzanne Balet Haight, and I own Balet Flowers and Design. We started our farm in 1978. So it was called Irish Hill Farm then, and we sold vegetables and a variety of different flowers, but mostly 15 acres of corn and lots of acres of veggies. So it was really exciting for me to transfer the business into something that I love, which is flowers and artistic design of flowers. So, so today we're going to talk about new ideas. Let's see. New gardening ideas and trends this year. This is our farm. It's going to look a little bit different this year because we have a new barn, which is bigger and beautiful. And since probably 1995, when I started it under Balet Flowers and Design, I wanted to build this barn. So it's finally happening and it's really exciting. So our new barn is going to be close to where the truck is, and our grand opening is on Earth Day from 9 to 6. So I hope you all can join us for that. And let's see. Well, so today we're going to talk about gardening ideas and trends. And a few of the topics we'll talk about is pollinators, increasing pollinators in your garden, enjoyment, finding full enjoyment of gardening, and easy gardening, concentrated color in your garden, focal points, and beautiful and edible designs. So increasing your pollinators in your garden, the things you want to think about is what's going to have a high pollen content. What are the plants, the bees, the butterflies, the birds, the bats, they're all attracted to. So you want to think about certain plants to incorporate. A lot of those plants are native plants. So looking at a native plant sheet of ideas that could go in your garden in the right spaces. Some native plants have beautiful flowers and some have not like inconspicuous flowers, but are very beneficial to our environment. So a couple plants that I incorporated, some have high pollen content that are not native, but could be incorporated into your garden to increase those pollinators. So at the top, we have Helenium. You can see a little bee on top of there. We have Rudbeckia. Goldfinch is loving the seeds on the Rudbeckia. And that's Goldstrom Rudbeckia. That's an old-fashioned Rudbeckia. It won perennial plant of the year one year. But there are other varieties that may be more disease resistant out there that still have the high pollen content. American Gold Rush Rudbeckia is a fantastic one. So incorporating some plants that might have other characteristics that are worthy in your garden as well. The monarch butterfly, the larva on Asclepias. We have the echinacea, and look how the butterflies are just, eating up that pollen. It's fantastic. The blue Carner butterfly is attracted to lupin. And I wanted to put this one in here because this is allium. It's a drumstick allium. There's other alliums, purple sensation that come out in May. The bees, the butterflies, they just are attracted to so much pollen coming off of that plant. So, and then in the back section right here, this is Heliopsis, which is a false sunflower. There are a lot of Helianthus sunflowers that are high in pollen, annuals, perennials, that could work in your garden, depending on how big, how tall, how short. There's different varieties out there that can work for your space. So increasing the pollinators in your garden will be best for our environment. And this is been a trend this year, last year, the previous year. So a lot of people are turning lawns into meadow gardens. So it's creating more flowers, more pollinators, more things that are better for the environment. And they also attract beneficial insects. We use insects to control other insects in our garden, in our greenhouse mostly. Ladybug larvae, apheteles, Californicus. There's a variety of different really great insects that are beneficial insects that are controlling other insects that can be incorporated into the garden or greenhouse. And here's another picture of some, I wanted to show you like the flowers up close and personal, because it could be that you want to add that to your garden, or you don't want to add it to your garden. It doesn't fit. So seeing some plants that are up close will help you decide which plants are going to be the best for your garden. We have asters, the New England aster up here, fantastic for lots of different pollinators to go to. It has a really high pollen content. Eupatorium, another native. There's short varieties and really tall varieties. And Helianthus, this is Heliopsis, but Helianthus, the same thing. You can get a short variety in your garden, a short annual sunflower that blooms all summer long and provides pollen all summer long, versus a really tall sunflower that might be a perennial sunflower that comes back every year where you don't have to think about planting it. But that really tall plant may or may not work in your garden. So you just have to like decide what is great. The Heliopsis I love because it only grows about roughly 4 feet tall, and it starts blooming in June and can go throughout the season if you deadhead a little bit. We also have Rudbeckia, bee balm, hydrangea, Anise hyssop. This is fabulous smelling. It doesn't always have, like here, I don't feel like it's as showy, but when it's in mass, like the whole, it just lights up with bees going to it. And I guess if you're allergic to bees, you might want to rethink the pollinators, or just think about putting it in the corner or as a focal point a little bit away from where you would actually be. So, and then we have purple coneflower, echinacea, phlox, more helenium. Blue salvia is a little bit earlier bloomer, so it's usually a June, July bloomer. So adding plants that bloom at different times will increase your pollination in the garden, because you want to think about having plants that are blooming all the way from April through October. And incorporating just a few of those plants will allow you to have a better ecosystem within your garden and see more hummingbirds and see more butterflies. And like, that's what you want. You want to enjoy your garden and see the wildlife coming to it as well. Hydrangeas. I love this hydrangea. This is called Fire and Ice, but also Little Quick Fire also looks like this. And it doesn't get very tall, but it provides so much pollen for butter. I always see bees and butterflies on them. And the more conical paniculatas that are more fluffy, like a limelight hydrangea, or there's little lime, which is a little bit more dwarf, that will also attract the pollinators. A little bit later, I'll be talking about color, but I just wanted to show you in this slide because it's one of my favorite pictures. It's like one of my favorite plants together. And like when we're talking about gardening trends, what's going to set off your plants? What's going to be like the conversation piece in your garden? So what I see is this is beautiful in flower, the fire and ice hydrangea. And then you have Little Devil Ninebark, which is a native shrub. And that dark foliage just really sets off the hydrangea, the pinks, the whites of the hydrangea. And then you have Carl Forrester, calamagrostis is reedgrass. So Carl Forrester reedgrass is here. Latin names come to me first before the common names sometimes. So, and then the Dallas blue panicum, this one is native. The panicums are native. The calamagrostis are not native, but they can offer interest within the garden that it's one of the grasses that blooms first. It starts blooming in May, which is, I can't think of a grass that blooms in May. Maybe a sedge, but not this tall. It starts growing and growing and growing, and then it gets to be about 5 to 6 feet tall and very upright and narrow. So it doesn't flop all over the place. It doesn't misbehave. It stays in its place, and it offers that backdrop to the hydrangea. The tan color comes out in July, but looking at the color and all those colors together, I just think that it really stands up. It sets itself apart from a lot of other plants. And then you have some echinacea. In this picture, you can't really get the full effect. Echinacea and phlox and thyme at the base. And I think there's a blue salvia mixed in there. And then that right there, it kind of looks like a goldenrod falling over, which sometimes we get weeds in our garden. We consider them goldenrod weeds. But if you look on the pollinator sheet, it's got one of the highest pollens that, like bees, butterflies, birds, they love goldenrod. Solidago, it is a native too. So there's certain varieties that are native and certain varieties that have been brought in, but having some goldenrod to increase those pollinators on the outskirts of your garden, in my opinion, would be fabulous. So, but having like the thyme down below, this is an earlier bloomer and the bees love it in the spring. So you want to think about like incorporating a lot of different things together, or a focal point or a mass planting to really attract those bees, butterflies, birds, bats, and then think about how it's going to look aesthetically and what you're going to enjoy. To me, like that dark foliage of the little devil 9-bark, fire and ice hydrangea, Carl Forrester reedgrass, those three together, I recommend it to everybody. I'm like, come out to the garden. Let's go see my favorite spot. So a couple other, this is the smooth leaf hydrangea, Annabelle hydrangea, which is a native, and it's white at first and then it turns green. So it has different characteristics that are attractive. And then you have phlox and rudbeckia and echinacea all throughout this. And this is more of a cottage garden look, but having a mass of flowers in a space attracts those insects, birds, bees, you know, all of the pollinators. Think about adding annuals to your garden. We have a variety of different things. We have Oklahoma zinnias, state fair zinnias, echinacea, celosia. Oh, what is this one? Likeness. So there's a few perennials in there, the echinacea and the likeness, but most of them are annuals. We have marigolds. There's even some herbs, so some edibles, parsley, sage. This is flat leaf parsley, curly parsley, bicolor sage. And then the marigolds just like offset. You can see how it really stands out in between the greenery. This one is gumbrina, it looks like carmine keys. There's a red one and a hot pink one. So the carmine, and I'm not sure in this picture, I think it's hot pink. There's a chance it could be red, just the way the coloration of the picture is. So the red would be strawberry fields, and the pink would be carmine keys, gumbrina. And then we have purple gumbrina, and then sedum. Oh, look at that sedum. That is perfect. That's like up on the corner. How how in the world did I get all of these flowers together? I can't get over it. So, I believe this is in front of my house, and we get, a lot of hummingbirds and a lot of bees and a lot of butterflies. But can you see why? Why wouldn't you go to that? So there's so much color. And when I plant the annuals in front of my house, I want to be able to cut those flowers. So I have some that I can cut, some that are good for the butterflies and the bees. So the sedum is, you'll see that when it's in bloom, there's a ton of bees on it. And then occasionally you'll be able to catch a butterfly land on it when the bees aren't taking over. It's fantastic. But incorporating the annuals offers that color all through the season and pollinators all through the season. And then you have a variety that come into bloom, like the sedum and the echinacea and the likeness. Zinnias are, the monarchs just love the zinnias. There's a monarch right here. And I think I took a video of all the monarchs last year, and it was phenomenal just watching them go from zinnia to zinnia. And it just was magical to see that. And I had a customer come to the greenhouse. I just want to sit here and watch. And it was so warm. And she's like, I want that in my garden. So we're going to plant a whole bunch of zinnias for her this year because that really will attract the monarchs to the area, especially as a pollinator. And then having a variety of different plants will also encourage, like if there was a Asclepias butterfly weed, then you would be able to have the whole generation of monarch in your garden. So egg, larva, caterpillar to the butterfly. So having an Asclepias, and then you need food for them to eat afterward because you have the plant that they're feeding on and multiplying on, and then you need enough pollinators to keep them there and give them enough energy. This to me looks like a native plant garden, mostly because I think the echinacea is a strong plant that it's, when you smell the center of it, I'm not sure if any of you have gotten that close because it is a little pricky. It smells like honey. So that's your homework for the summer. I want you to get close to an echinacea and really smell it. So it just has like a really sweet honey smell to it. And here you can see sedum. It's not quite in bloom, it's in the green form, but the texture next to other plants, it really is, it's beautiful. And then this is Veronica, and there's Russian sage in here, so it's not completely native. But you have the milkweed for the monarchs and Rudbeckia, so it's colorful. But then you have different things coming on at different times. The daylilies came earlier. In this garden, you also have Coreopsis that starts blooming in June. And she had planted some bulbs too. So she had some allium in there in the early spring. She has a, the hearts, fleeting hearts on the other side, and where it's a little bit more shady. So it really attracted a lot of different pollinators at different times. So it was a great garden for the environment. I just included a couple slides on pollinators, native plants and pollinators, because I feel like it's nice to have that list. It's nice to have like a reference for you to go to that's quick. So I did my homework, I researched a little bit, I knew a few, but then I added a few that I wasn't sure of. So always being able to look at those things is helpful. So this is a list of perennials and that are native. And then we also have native grasses, which offer texture, but also you don't always think of the plumes as being like, that's what the birds, the butterflies, the bees are kind of going for. There's pollen in those blooms of the grass. So having some of those different type of plants, having the like a sedge, or the calamagrostis, they're not native, like some sedges are native. So like you just having that pollen early in the season, those are two grasses that bloom earlier. That would be helpful to have in your garden. And then native shrubs. So incorporating some native shrubs that encourage different habitats for different butterflies, like the spice bush. Oops. The spice bush is really great for a certain kind of butterfly. So it's like just incorporating certain things into your garden would be, if you have a choice, go native. But sometimes you need like that pop of color, and it has to be a certain type of hydrangea that might not be the native type, it might be the fire and ice hydrangea. So it's like choosing which is best for your garden. And then another trend that's been happening this year and last year has been enjoyment of your garden. Being able to be in the garden, get your hands in the soil, like just having something else to think about that's just natural. It doesn't cost anything a lot of times. You can go out in your yard and you can play and you can you know, just enjoy the setting, the birds, the bees, the butterflies. So, so get your hands in the soil, perusing seed catalogs, researching, nurturing living plants, like just being able to feel the leaves and touch the soil and like use all of your senses. Lavender, like using your smell, like being able to like really engross yourself into the garden and see all of the benefits. Feed yourself. How great is it when you grow your tomatoes and you're able to harvest like one yourself and put it on your sandwich that day? And herbs are probably the easiest. They're so good for you and it doesn't take up much space. You can have a little pot on your porch. And then, or you can incorporate herbs like it was in that annual picture. You can just incorporate a couple herbs that you want to use, that you use all the time, and harvest those and, you know, be able to enjoy them. And then of course, fresh air and exercise, being outside. You're bending over, you're moving, you're going back and forth. You're getting your trowel out, you're using your muscles, you know, sometimes you're digging in the soil with your shovel. So it really does use a lot of your different muscle groups, and that is helpful. And then when you are in your garden, I'm not sure if you do this, but it is to stop and smell the roses. Take a deep breath and enjoy that moment that you are in the garden. So I think gardening has always been a place to go, but sometimes in our busy lives, we just keep going. And in the garden, you can really enjoy that space. And it's just up to you to decide, when am I going to take that deep breath? When am I going to smell that plant? When am I going to smell that echinacea honey inside? You know, it's just, it's really up to you. So seed catalogs, they often have new varieties, inspire you to grow certain plants, like, oh, I love the color of that. So perusing through those magazines, looking at books. There's a companion plant book that I always am going back to because I'm like, oh, there must be something else I can grow to accent another plant. So just come to the library, look at magazines, you know, get ideas and inspire you. When it's snowy outside, you can come to the library and be like, oh, now I know what I'm going to grow in my garden. So using those books, eating well, you know, growing your own food, knowing where it comes from. You know, this is like getting your hands in the dirt and being able to eat well and have better health. Look at that, like just being able to like see those white roots and get it out of the pot and plant it in the soil. This is at Pitney Meadow Farms when we helped out with some of the side gardens, and we have parsley in there. And then we have some basil. This is lemon basil. And we have some annuals in that space. So it just like, look how much enjoyment you can just feel yourself digging in the soil and using the trowel and planting that and tucking it in. It's like that. I'm starting it out right. It's got the roots, it's got the legs, it's gonna like really start to grow and feeling the soil. Can you imagine yourself like right now, just touching that soil? Like, it's just like getting your hands in it, you know, it's how enjoyable though. Like if you have gloves on, I think it's helpful if you have nice nails, but you can still like get in the soil and feel it. I find there's so much enjoyment in pondering and, mystery when you're touching the soil. So another thought for easy maintenance is having concentrated color. So this is a big panicle hydrangea tree with sedum at the base, and then we have some roses that are passed. But it's so easy because it just has gold mountain spirea as a hedge. It's so easy for somebody to have this concentrated color of, but you could also see this instead of a hydrangea tree, it's a massive zinnias with sedum around it, or and some bulbs that come up earlier in the spring. And then you have the spirea that'll bloom in July. So it can be like, it doesn't have to be so big or so much that you're like, oh, my garden is overwhelming. I don't know what to do. So if you can think about like, where do you look at your views, look at the section that you're going to enjoy the most. So that you can see how this is all tying together, like the enjoyment, the concentrated color, the focal points, what brings you joy. So like having concentrated color can reduce your maintenance of the garden. Another grouping different things. So a group of rudbeckia and the grasses, different textures of grasses. So we have shrubs in the back. This is a spirea bridal thing. Bridal, yes, it's like bridal veil. It's in honeycomb. It's more upright. It's like bridal wreath spirea. So we have a white spirea here, and then the grasses, different grasses, but it gives you the same like mass of backdrop, and then a mass of color in the front. So this would be easier because it would, you know, have just a mass of one type, and you can tell what is a weed and what isn't. Having like different textures together. Oh, I wonder if this is a different angle from my favorite picture. I think it is. Okay, so this is the Calamer grasses. This is the Carl Forrester reed grass, and then you have the little devil 9-bark, and then the fire and ice hydrangea, and we have a phlox in there too. So a couple different phlox are growing close to the hydrangea. They popped up from that space. Having things a little bit closer together sometimes blocks out a lot of the other weeds, and then you're able to have a mass of color without having the weeds in between. Focal points and plants of interest. So we have rudbeckia in the last picture. The echinacea are fantastic. There's so many different colors, so many different varieties out there. I brought a few different varieties for you to see. So at the end, we can look at some of those. But one of my favorites is Powell Wildberry. And it looks like the traditional echinacea, but it's a little bit hotter pink and it stays upright. So it only grows, about 24 to 30 inches. And then it doesn't flop like some other echinaceas. So it stands up on its own. It has nice strong stems. So sometimes new varieties will give you some of that easy maintenance type, but then smell the center because it's gonna smell like honey.
Please wait now to do that.
I know, if I only had an echinacea here. Some other new varieties, this is called, What a Doozy sedum, and I have that as a small plant here. We just started in our greenhouse a couple weeks ago, so things are small yet, but they'll grow fast as soon as we get some more sunlight and warm temperatures. So What a Doozy sedum, you can see it has a flower on it, so it is attracting the pollinators. It's very low growing. It's similar to a variegated sedum, a low growing variegated sedum, but it has a little bit redder stem to it. So there's more interest in the look of the plant. So the stems are redder, the leaves are whiter and variegated. It's really kind of cool. We have different textures of coral bells, which can be a strong focal point, a strong plant of interest. The lighter colors are fantastic in the shade, so it really stands out. And then some things that are trending now are deeper colors, like the coral bells, the sedum, purple emperor sedum, neon black sedum. And then the other darker, this is where my little devil 9-bark comes in. And so you can see that dark really stands out in the landscape, and it can offer a little sense of interest. And then the lighter colors, this is Jack Frost Brunera and variegated Jacob's Ladder. So both of these you can see in a shady environment really lift in the darkness. So this will grow in part sun or shade, and same with this. And the one nice thing I like about Brunera is it has these little forget-me-not type flowers on them, and they bloom early in May. So it offers another flower content that the bees and butterflies are going to.
Is that shade or?
So these two can both be put in shade or part sun. And actually the variegated sedum I have, or variegated Jacob's Ladder, this one, this I've grown from full shade to full sun. If you grow, I sometimes try different plants in different environments. So I have grown the Jack Frost Brunera in full sun, and the leaves tend to burn on the edges. So that's why I find it's best in part sun or shadier environments. So other focal points, you can see the rocks can be a focal point. This is just a base garden, so you can really see the stone wall can be a focal point of really setting off that stone wall. Ironwork, a bird, a sculpture, a bird bath. So you can have focal points in your garden that you go to, and maybe it's in a bench. So a chair that you can sit on and really enjoy your garden and sit there and be in it. A little Adirondack chair. And you can see the color is like a focal point in the garden. And then we have a potted plant that can be a focal point in the garden. And it's like a mass of color with the green backdrop of endless summer hydrangeas that only bloom sometimes. And Ligularia, lily of the valley ferns, like it's a very green backdrop. So sometimes your plants aren't blooming, so you want to possibly incorporate a potted plant, an annual that will bloom all summer long and attract those beneficials and pollinators. So we have Terenia and some pansies, and that actually looks like a Terenia as well. Some geraniums and begonias. So this is a little bit part shade. More shade or part shade garden, and the Terenia is fabulous as an annual in the shade. So,
I moved into a new apartment and all the earth around this apartment building is covered in rock. River rock.
so if we have rocks, then we want to think about possibly incorporating pots and
Or more rocks.
or more rocks.
Big ones.
So the big rocks will offer an accent to that space.
Exactly.
And you have something a little bit different, but think about a potted plant just at the base of that rock. So it really stands out because then you have a backdrop of the rock that offsets the plant. And that would be a great picture too. So I'll get over there and take a picture so I can use it for my next slideshow. So a couple others, points of view, points of interest. We have, this is later in the fall, the mums, grass, flowering kale, and then something for the wall, like it just is a focal point and a place of interest. But then you are also providing flowers that all of the beneficials can go to. And also this is a beautiful and edible display. Why? Because you can eat this flowering kale. So it's so good for you. It's beautiful and it's edible. So as well as this purple flowering kale. So when you're incorporating different plants in your pots, like why not incorporate some edibles? You might not want to eat it right away because you want to enjoy the beauty of it, but you can decide. Other focal points too, you want to think about spring, summer, fall. These are a few earlier season plants. So you have a lilac blooming in June, May, June, viburnum, snowball viburnum that's blooming early May and June, and then Weigela. These are a couple shrubs that are a little bit earlier bloomers. So sometimes you want to have blooms all the time. So always think about those early, mid-season, late season blossoms. And then one of my favorites again. So, so the hydrangeas, the paniculatas, the fire and ice, the little quick fires, always offer a late season bloom. And it's really a focal point in the garden. I'm not sure if all of you know this plant, but it also is one of my favorites because the hummingbirds love it. And if you have space in your garden, I would recommend it. It has been trendy in our garden center as well as others. And it's called Crocosmia Lucifer. And it's a zone 5 plant, but I've been growing it in my garden for 10 years at least. And each year the clump gets bigger. So if it's in the right spot, a little bit protected, it will produce for you. And that's a July blossomer. You can get the best pictures of the hummingbirds just soaking up the pollen.
Does it have a common name?
Crocosmia. I don't know the common name for it. I always call it Crocosmia. There is a common name for it though. Okay. Crocosmia Lucifer. Some people just call it Lucifer.
Okay, that's good.
So beautiful and edible. Always think about your planters that you're putting together, thinking about the pollinators. I personally, I love to grow herbs. So I might have a potted plant of herbs, but it's very green. So what do I want to put in there that's going to offer color, but still might be edible? So I love to incorporate pansies. You can eat the flowers of the pansies or violets, and nasturtiums cascade over and they like have a nice flowing effect. So you can actually have a potted herb display on your porch and still have it colorful. So this is a hanging basket of different herbs. This is a little tiny nasturtium, so it's not really grown yet, but this is what it will look like. And it'll cascade over that hanging basket. And you can hang it on your porch and still use all of your herbs and have it beautiful as well. And how far do you have to go? Just out your front door. So you can eat well. You can use that, all of those different herbs. This one actually has some veggies. We have Swiss chard and kale in there and some Italian parsley, chives, Indian mint, curly parsley. So it's kind of fun. You can make a salad out of that whole basket. So add, I'll get to
Okay.
that in a minute. So add pops of color to your herb garden, such as the pansies and nasturtiums as edibles. Pollinator plants to vegetable gardens, thinking about marigolds possibly, incorporating companion planting and the benefits of nutrition while incorporating beauty, color, texture. So this is a close-up picture of parsley, sage, and thyme. And you can see the leaves are very different. The sage is broader, but more oblong. The parsley, the thyme, very tiny. So having those textures together really add a lot of interest within an herb garden. It doesn't have to be all green. You can use some of the variegated types out there. Lavender, I'm not sure if anybody uses lavender, but lavender tea is fantastic. And I've also made these cookies, just butter cookies out of lavender. Like you can use the flowers or the leaves on that. And so it can be edible as well as beautiful. Another type, this is kind of a mixture. So we have sweet alyssum. Alyssum is fantastic for pollinators. It has so much pollen and it blooms all season long. Sometimes you can get it to self-seed in your garden. We have lemongrass, curly parsley, variegated lemon thyme. There's calibrachoa and alyssum for a little bit of color. And then the pansy in the back, which could be edible or just beautiful in the pot. A pizza garden. So what are you going to put in your pizza garden? We're going to put a tomato. We're going to put some parsley. We're going to put a sweet banana pepper, some oregano, some chives. But some of those herbs also offer benefits of companion planting. So incorporating different herbs within will keep away tomato hornworms or other insects. Sometimes I do marigolds in with tomato as well. So think about what you're putting together in edible and beautiful. Can incorporate some nasturtiums, marigolds, calendula. Those are all beautiful, but they're also herbs. So you can use them in, we're making soap now. So with some of our flowers, so we're incorporating some of our calendulas and lavender, rosemary into some of the soaps. So you can grow things yourself and incorporate them into other things of enjoyment. So a picture of a few of those. I'm not sure I had allium on the list. Chives. Okay, chives, onions, and garlics. So this right here is garlic chives. So it can, incorporating garlic chives into your garden can repel bunnies, the roots will also repel some of the Japanese beetles from laying their eggs in the soil. So there's different companions that can be used. This is nasturtium. We have marigolds, parsley, sage, thyme. And that list, I should have printed it off, but we can offer that at least through email at the end. Let's see, we also have edible and beautiful. So the textures in this are fantastic. The lemon sage, the lemon thyme, the variegation next to the green parsley, and then different types of lettuces that you can harvest as you go. And then we have a little basil in there. So as you harvest the lettuce, the basil is going to get bigger and take over the pot, and then you'll have more to harvest at a later time. Peppers incorporated right here. This is a bigger leaf, and Swiss chard, kale. See the red leaf? Like, it can be beautiful with the different textures together. Look at the purple kale in there. There's so many different things that you can do to incorporate edible and beautiful. And you do want to think about those pollinators in your just like potted plant or garden. So you want to think about having marigolds or zinnias or flowers in your vegetable garden to actually promote the pollination of your cucumbers or of your squash or of your tomatoes. So it is important to have as many flowers around just to have a good harvest of vegetables. In here we have kale, some zinnias, salvia, more zinnias, parsley. This is also at Pitney Meadow Farms, angel trumpet and celosia in the back. So we incorporated flowers that were going to bloom as well as plants that you could actually eat. And then it was pretty growing all together. There could be individual pots that you put together next to each other. The pots could be of interest and beautiful, as well as the textures of different plants within. So this has a cucumber growing in it, having the nasturtium. It's a variegated nasturtium that's going to cascade over. Having that next to the cucumber is going to encourage the bees to come to the nasturtiums and also pollinate the cucumbers. This is just another vegetable gardening idea that'll also be offered in this slideshow. Things to plant, things to think about when you're vegetable gardening, starting up vegetable gardening. A lot of people want to grow their own food. So having like a little bit of a guideline to help you be successful, it's a good starting point. So gardening ideas and trends. We've done it. We've increased pollinators. We've increased our enjoyment. We've relieved a lot of our stress because we've played in the soil and we've smelled the actual flowers. We've created easy maintenance gardening with concentrated color and focal points. So, and then beautiful and edible gardening. So you have flowering plants mixed in with edibles that you can actually harvest and enjoy. So thank you so much for coming today. And I'm really excited I got to present to you on this at the first time in the library in person and on Zoom. And again, my name is Suzanne Balet Haight of Balet Flowers and Design, and come to our grand opening on Earth Day.